Most people grew up with a happy little show called Pingu. Pingu was a show that had a clay penguin named Pingu, and it showed his adventures. The characters spoke some sort of secret penguin language. The original show ran from 1986 to 2000, and there was apparently an unreleased episode that was released about a year later. This is where things get really interesting. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I saw the beginning of a Pingu episode called Pingu's Punishment. I only saw a bit of it, but what I remember was Pingu was very angry, and his mother began smashing plates. I also remember the episode was about Pingu playing outside when he was supposed to be doing his chores. My mom came in at the plate smashing part, shut off the TV, and told me that dinner was ready. I was looking up the episode list on Wikipedia one day, and I found out something interesting. No episode called Pingu's Punishment was released. Had it even existed? I thought this was some sort of adventure to myself, and I contacted Trick Film Studio, the company that made Pingu. I asked them for a complete production guide for Pingu, and they sent it to me via email. I looked at it, compared it to Wikipedia's list, and I noticed something was off with the final series. Pingu Helps Grandfather, which was the 23rd episode of Series 4, was missing. At the bottom of the list was an episode titled Pingu Ending. I asked for a synopsis, but they refused to give me one, stating that it was personal information. I then Googled Pingu Ending and Pingu's Punishment, and then I found something more. It was on RapidShare. The file's name was Pingu's Punishment Unreleased Last Episode.zip, and I downloaded it. I went to my downloads and I found the folder. It contained 2 files. One was a notepad file and it was titled fear.txt. I opened it, and here's what it read. This is an unreleased episode of Pingu dated April 11th, 2000. This originally planned to end the series, and this was actually aired in some countries. Watch at your own risk. Wow. I began to feel a bit suspicious, and my heart pounded in my chest. And then curiosity overtook me. I opened the second file, which was an AVI movie file. The first part was the same episode I saw when I was a kid, but something felt off. The theme song was distorted, and instead of Pingu's usual newt and newt, there was backwards audio. I recorded it with sound recorder, and it played "You Can't Survive Like This Beyond Death." Oh, that was really creepy. But I continued with the video. I got there. I got back to the part where Pingu's mother was smashing plates, and suddenly it cut to black. A blood-curdling scream was heard, and it faded back to the kitchen. Pingu's mother was sitting on a stool crying, only it sounded real. She began crying and crying, but then it started to sound like laughing. Suddenly it cut to Pinga. Pinga was lying down on the floor. Her head was ripped off. I paused it there and I felt sick. What made me really sick was that it wasn't clay blood. It wasn't food coloring. I don't know what it was, but I continued on. Pingu's mother kept crying. Suddenly it cut to a black and white video of 2 scientists going into a slaughterhouse. It showed a bunch of cows getting slaughtered. Suddenly it showed a penguin being stunned and then being hanged upside down. The butcher slit the penguin's throat and it died from blood loss. It began showing pictures of dead penguins. And it cut back to Pingu's mother crying. The trampoline was in the kitchen, and there was also a fan. She jumped up to the fan and blood splattered everywhere. The body of Pingu's mother fell down. It showed pictures of the dead bodies of Pingu, Robbie, and all of the other characters. An old music box playing Hush Little Baby faintly played. I paused to go to the bathroom and I vomited. I felt really nauseous and sick after witnessing what I just watched. But then I continued the video. A distorted voice said something backwards. I recorded it and played it in reverse. It said, "Your life will be all pitch black in a few seconds. You must be smart enough to play this backwards because you're stupid enough to believe me." My chest pounded. The credits were in Times New Roman, and the background continued to show the disturbing images. It closed with the background of a mask with red eyes. The mask suddenly said in a distorted tone, "Darkness begins now." Suddenly my computer froze. Then the lights flickered and the power went out. The power came back on within a few seconds and I was shaking. I needed to find the source of the film. I got in contact with Carlo Bonomi, the voice of all the characters. I pretended it was an interview, and I talked about Pingu. I finally mentioned Pingu's punishment, and he stopped, and he asked where I'd heard of that before. I explained the whole thing to him, and he told me the story. During the 4th season of Pingu, there was a writer-animator named Ted Goldman. Ted was a quiet man who usually wasn't that sociable. Sometime during the middle of the season, Ted's mother had been trying to reach something from the upper shelf, and the ceiling fan was still on. She was decapitated. Ted was understandably emotionally scarred. He began submitting morbid ideas such as Pingu killing all the other characters. He even asked Bonomi to do a voice of Pingu dying. Goldman found out that Pingu was closing production at the end of the season, and Ted passed off the episode as the series finale. Right after they had watched the episode, they discovered Ted was being charged with animal cruelty, bestiality, and murder. Ted left an apparent suicide note claiming he was going to live in Antarctica. However, no records claim he was ever there. He was last spotted in Santa Barbara, California, purchasing a gun. They never found him. I was left shocked. Then a thought occurred to me to play the entire episode backwards, starting from the point where the distorted voice began. I heard a scream, a shout, and a very eerie voice that said something that still haunts me to this very day. "The only way out